Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic and the Examiner. With us today, Jeff Wiggins, guitarist for New York-based rocker Stone Soul Foundation. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Happy Veterans Day. How have you guys been celebrating?
Well, just a moment of silence, that's for sure, and just paying respects.
Absolutely. Any veterans in the band?
Not in the band, in the family, but my brother and my father were both veterans. And speaking of veterans, we're going to be teaming up with Oscar Mike. Are you familiar with them?
No, I'm not.
It's a really great company. They're out in the Chicago area. It's veterans run and owned and employed, and all American made apparel.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, we're going to team up with them and do a shirt for Taking Back the U.S., a song that we just released not too long ago and have a video for as well.
Right. And
we're going to do a collaboration T-shirt, man. And it's, again, man, all American made, veterans employed. They donate to veterans to do sporting events. And it's something that they really can look forward to when they get home, because it can be pretty rough, as if you know any veterans that come back from war, pretty rough to adjust, you know?
Right.
And this really gives them something to look forward to, you know?
Sweet. So when will that be ready? When will it be out?
Well, right now, Paul Turnbow is the art director, and he is working on some sketches for the shirt. I'm hoping to see something here by the end of the week, and we hope to get the ball rolling as soon as possible. They just did a huge Kickstarter campaign, had about 50,000 supporters.
Nice. That's always good to see.
Yeah, they're really busy with that now. So.
Well, and you guys have had some amazing support with your Kickstarter campaign stuff as well. So, you know, it's good to see the fans supporting music.
Yeah, I mean, what we did was on a much smaller level, and so I kind of know where they're at with filling all the orders in, because you give you have to give back for the people supporting with donations,
right?
And so they got a lot of T-shirts to print, man. But they have really great products, man, and the emphasis being American made, and that's what we need right now in America. Is American-made products and Americans with jobs. I mean, 91 million people just left the workforce in October.
Right.
You know, the latest reports. So they're not even on unemployment. They're people that could be working that aren't. They're not even looking for jobs. They can't find them.
Absolutely. It's a real sticking point with me, but before we get too deep into that, because we'll talk about some social stuff a little bit later, but right now let's actually talk about some music, the reason we're all here to begin with. You guys have been around for over a decade, and but I didn't hear about you till I got a hold of your fourth album, your last album, Electric Valley, which came out in 2011. Great stuff. I remember throwing on the CD, first song, Sidewalker. I'm like, wow, I hear everything from Sabbath to Ozzy Solo to Kiss to some Metallica vibe in there, and just all this stuff going on in one song, and even a little Suicidal Tendency section there, it almost felt like. And I'm just like, damn, you know, it was an impressive way to kick off the album. And I'm like, you know, I gotta learn more about these guys. So, but that was your fourth album, because that's a couple of years ago. I understand the follow-up album number 5 is going to be out early next year. Is that the case?
Well, first off, I mean, you nailed it on the head. Those are, you know, not our only influences, but those are definitely all influences of our band. And as you mentioned, somehow we seem to be able to seep in these influences even into one song, which is, you know, at some points. So it's just what, you know, you start a band and eventually it kind of takes on a life of its own, you know, after 10 years. So that's kind of what has happened with us. You know, it's not about us as individuals anymore. It's we've created a monster. So, but yeah, we are working on new material right now, and we do hope to enter the recording studio. We're always in the studio rehearsing and recording the songs, for ourselves to listen back to and try to make them the best that we can, But we're hoping to hit the actual recording studio in 2014. Don't want to make any promises as far as the exact date when the release is going to be, because, you don't want to rush anything either, It's all about the music. Absolutely. With us, so...
Well, as you mentioned a moment ago, you already released one new song, Taking Back the U.S., which we'll talk about in a minute, but that had, at least comparative to the last album, which is the only history I have on the band so far, it had a little bit of a different vibe. There was even a bit of 90s influence in there, it sounded like, in places. In your mind, the new material you're writing, how does that contrast with what you've done in the past?
Yeah, I think... I would say that we're obviously the old growing as musicians,
right?
There's truth to that, but also I think we're really getting an even more organic sound as well into the band. Maybe more grooviness, of more. Mm-hmm. Rock and groovy kind of vibe too, with the new material. And, but really each song kind of takes on a life of its own too with us. Yeah. So there's that underlying sound. It's just Stone Soul Foundation, but each song kind of has a life of its own as well, and we're still in that place where each song does take on a life of its own. So there's not, one or two songs that sound exactly the same,
Right. Now, how does the songwriting process work in your band? Is there just primarily one or two songwriters, or do you guys do it collectively, or?
Well, Sean Muldoon is our vocalist, and he also writes the bulk of the lyric. And we always encourage each other with different ideas and things like that, but he does take on the bulk of the writing. He's really, really good at it. And there's several ways. He'll write some lyrics and kind of have like a vibe in mind for the song, and we might use that for inspiration, to come up with a guitar riff or something like that, or vice versa. I do a lot of writing on the guitar and bring stuff into the studio, but in the end, we do all collaborate on it. Everybody has a say in the song, so there's no, all right, this is how the song goes, and that's it. We're always open to each other for ideas and suggestions on how to make it better. And I think that to be a real band, that's a band, that's a group of guys getting together and collectively creating music.
Right, the way it used to be.
So, right, yeah. So I can't say I would never want to, do my own project, but that's what it would be like if one of us or two of us were writing everything and nobody else had any say. That's what that would be. It's be more self-absorbed. And this is more of a communal kind of writing process.
That way you can all be behind what you guys are performing every night and everything. So now, since the last album, somewhere in there, because you were, at least according to the album, you were a 5-piece a while back. You've stripped back to a 4-piece since then. Do you prefer, as a guitar player, to handle all the guitar duties, or do you sort of miss having somebody on the other side of the stage?
Well, yeah, and you mentioned some of the differences. Now we are writing geared more towards a 4-piece, and so that does bring on that more raw, groovy rock vibe that I was talking about. I mean, it's still heavy. The bulk of our music still has that heavy edge that you hear in a lot of the songs at Electric Valley, but there's definitely that more. I mean, really, take the singer out, it's a 3-piece band, It's that that old-fashioned, lineup, So it definitely leaves more work for me, especially playing the older songs as a four-piece. But in the same, it also makes it a tighter sound for us to all, play together just as a three-piece. And we can vibe together. We can get in the groove together a lot easier. And, there's some melodic differences is the biggest. That's the biggest difference is when you're playing live, in the studio, you can do overdubs and stuff like that. If there's some specific melodic music that you want in there guitar-wise. But live, that's it, man. It's one guitar, one bass, and a drummer. And that's what you got, So, but we really work really well with it. And I think as a live band, we've become even tighter and more energetic in that situation as a four-piece band.
So being that it's Veterans Day, perfect segue to wrap back around to the newest single, Taking Back the U.S. You guys already shot a video for it. Tell us a little bit about the song and making the video.
Well, making the video, again, coming back to the Kickstarter campaign, we started up a Kickstarter campaign to help raise funds to record the video because we wanted to do a concept video for it. So it was obviously a lot more involved production-wise than just doing a live video shoot. And we wanted to get that song out as soon as possible because it really struck a chord with us.
Right.
And when we played it out live on a tour that we did, across the country, and people, really gravitated towards the song, and we just wanted to get it out there as soon as possible. So we were able to raise the funds with a lot of our, diehard fans and friends and family members, and everybody pitched in. And the video shoot itself, it started downpouring. Everybody that we hovered under a tent, waited the rain out. Man, everybody stuck it out with us for the portion of the video where you see the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So they all stuck it out and came out and did the recording with us. They could all ran home and said, "Screw this," But so there was a lot of support, in that. And in the video itself, we wanted to have it be a little bit comical because it is a pretty serious subject.
Right.
But I think in watching the video, you can kind of also get a laugh from it, the way that the dirty banker is portrayed and his his attitude, the way he walks around and he's smoking the cigar and sleeping with the Democrats and the Republicans and, so, so I think it came out good in that way of, that it gets the point across, which is a really serious, scary, and depressing subject, but also you can get a laugh out of it as well.
Well, it's funny because when I was watching it, I thought, the main character in that almost harks back to your previous video from the last album, Electric Valley, the song we already talked about, Sidewalker. You referred to vampires that sort of drain us daily, and I've always thought of politicians that way, or they're sort of and then of course the people who aren't working by choice and spend their days doing drugs, sucking off the system, is sort of the zombies. So the politicians are the vampires, these guys are the zombies, and we're sort of the rest of the sheeple in the middle paying the cost. Well,
yeah, you're right. I mean, Sidewalker, it's a sidewalk and snake, backstab and fake, well, that could be, directed towards a dirty, banker as well, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Or a politician and stuff. There's good people in the government still, but it seems like they're being weeded out, and it's really unfortunate. And there are a lot of people sucking off the system they want the free ride.
Right.
But then you got a lot of good, hardworking, educated Americans that just can't find a job.
Absolutely.
And everything's being, not only it's the factory jobs and whatnot, being shipped overseas to Chinese, basically slave labor camps,
Right.
but the other jobs are following as well,
Oh, yeah, white-collar jobs and blue-collar jobs are going overseas, and technology is stealing most of what's left of the rest.
Right. I mean, we're going to lose all that, too. And that's somewhat of what Take Back the U.S. is talking about, I mean, mainly that song in particular, I guess, is, just talking about the corruption and,
Right.
the big corporations and bankers kind of pulling the strings of government, but there's so many other things that come with that, that's just like generalizing it,
You guys don't shy away from tackling difficult issues and stuff like that. You guys had a song on the last album, the second track, as a matter of fact, Christian, and myself being an atheist, I was like, well, are you guys atheists as well, secular humanists, or were you just sort of taking a stab at the hypocrisy of organized religion, or?
Well, I mean, I think some of us may be atheists, and other of us may be just more spiritualists,
Right.
That song, if you take Christian out of the statement, and it's basically about hypocrites,
Right.
That was just what was used as an example,
Right.
of hypocrites is that they're the Christian hypocrites or Catholic or whatever, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, it's just, you're not supposed to be looking down on people, and you can see there's a lot of people that they call themselves Christians or, whatnot, but really they're talking down to people, talking about them behind their backs and things like that.
Nice. And then there was one song I had a question about every time I listened to it. I'm like, Song About You. Is that directed at somebody, or is that sort of like a looking in the mirror at oneself sort of thing?
Ah, very good, very good. Yeah, it's actually it could be interpreted both ways. I could see that the one line grabbed you, that I'm just like you.
Right.
So or you're just like me. I'm sorry I don't write the lyrics that Sean does, but yeah, it could be directed at somebody, but it also could be directed inwards towards yourself, I could see people being in that situation where maybe that's the way they feel about themselves. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, it was actually kind of started out even musically more comical,
Right.
but it kind of took on the life of its own to where it is now. But yeah, it could be directed either way to answer your question.
So people always want to know, it's the generic question, but for a band that's regionally located, the rest of the world finding out about you, is there a story behind the name, or was that sort of let's just draw names out of a hat, or?
Yeah, well, the singer and myself, been in various metal bands growing up as teenagers, and we started really digging into the to classic rock and just that raw soulful sound and feeling that was in a lot of the 60s and 70s rock music and all that passion
Right.
that was portrayed. And we're also really huge fans of metal, and no matter what we do, we can't deny that it's like in our blood. But we wanted to create a band that infused that passion and soul into modern music of today,
Which has been
And,
sorely missing.
Right, yeah, that's, that was kind of where we were at, that was our thoughts just as listeners at that time and musicians as well, that we felt there was a lot of soul and passion missing. Music was becoming really like product, and unfortunately it's still like that to a large extent. There's a lot of really cool things happening underground, as always, But anyway, soul, and so that I think that word soul was stirring in our minds as we were trying to come up with names for our new vision, and Sean was just spouting out names,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that's pretty cool. That one's cool, and he's like, Stone Soul Foundation. I was like, whoa, it just stuck out to me, and I was like, that's awesome. That's the name, so I think you can kind of interpret it as something solid and heavy and soulful.
Nice. Makes perfect sense to me. So before we get out of here, just a little bit about you, coming up. Tell us a little bit about your path to music. Were there, one or two primary influences for you musically and then as a guitar player?
Yeah. Yeah, when I was real young, I just was listening to whatever anybody else was playing on the radio. And I got an older brother that was talking about the veteran. Mm. And he got into metal. So he had a lot of, at that time, cassette tapes kicking around. And when he would leave and go somewhere, I would pop them into the radio and listen to them. And I started getting a favorite one, which was Metallica. And I think it was the Justice album. And I just couldn't stop playing that one, It was really awesome, and I was just totally intrigued and wanted to be able to emulate what I was hearing, That was what, really got me into it. And when he ended up joining the Army. And so then I had full access to the leftover tapes that he left behind, and then I started going out and buying my own, going out to the stores and trying to find new Metallica tapes. And once those ran out, it was the Slayer, and it just really got into metal music.
But there's definitely a lot of soul and groove in your guitar playing. Were there one or two guitar players that really sort of, that you wanted to emulate, that you sort of took your groove from?
Yeah, that kind of came to me. I started playing guitar when I was 12, and like I said, I was trying to be Metallica. But as years went on, I started expanding my horizons and really getting into a lot of the classic rock. And I remember Santana and being really into Stevie Ray Vaughan and just like the bluesier side,
right?
And that just came naturally to me. Even being like a metalhead, somehow the blues just naturally seeped into my playing. Like I basically had no control over it. I don't think it's just maybe in my DNA, So I think that's probably where you hear that groovy, soulful style in my playing, even though I have an aggressive crunch as well, but I just can't seem to get away from the soul of the blues style,
Right. So the pointless question of the week on our way out the door: if you could appear on any television show, either as yourself or as a character, what would it be?
Oh man, dude, what about, let's say, like a cartoon or something, like maybe American Dad?
There you go.
Or I guess you really made it. Maybe if you end up on a Simpsons episode.
That's true. That's that's when you made your mark.
What would be even more awesome? Beavis and Butthead.
The classics. Absolutely.
Oh man.
Jeff Wiggins, Stones. Yeah, I did too. Back when we actually still played some videos on MTV. So, Jeff Wiggins of Stone Soul Foundation, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on Veterans Day. The best to you and yours. And we look forward to the new music, and I will talk with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was good talking with you.
Absolutely. Take care, brother.